Hello everybody, welcome you all at Learning is Fun with Prajnaparamita. Today I am going to tell you about adverbial clauses of time. Those who already watched my video lesson about adverbial clauses, you can understand there are so many types of, actually 10 types of adverbial clauses are there. And in that video lesson, I have discussed all about these clauses separately. If you don't watch that video lesson yet, please do watch. I will provide the link in the description box below for you. So today is the time to know more about adverbial clauses of time. What is it? Why it is so important? Because in an adverbial clauses of time, one important thing you have to know that you have to use the proper subordinate conjunction in their proper place. So this is an important point. And moreover, the next important point is verb tense. So, if you watch this video lesson, you can understand why these adverbial clauses of time is so important for you. So, stay with me till the end to know all these things very carefully. So, adverbial clauses of time, as you have already know that thing, are introduced by the following subordinators that are after, as, before, until, as soon as, when, while, etc. So here are the examples for you. Buy your tickets as soon as you reach the station. This is an example for the adverbial clauses of time. And the next example is while I was asleep, I dreamed about you. Or when we came in just as it started raining. We came in just as it started raining. These are the examples for the adverbial clauses of time. So, what is the interesting thing? If you watch these examples, you find the subordinator sometimes used in the middle of a sentence, sometimes at the beginning of a sentence, sometimes at the middle of a sentence as well. So, what is actually the proper position of using the subordinator? This is important thing, and there is a rule for you. And if you watch this lesson, you can understand why I am stating these things. What are the rules? Now let's see. Now I am going to tell you some interesting facts about the adverbial clauses of time. What are these interesting facts? First, adverbial ing clauses, that are the adverbial participle clauses. The participle clauses which are used as an adverbial clause of time are introduced by the following subordinator. For example, once, till, until, when, whenever, while, etc. While we are talking about the participle clauses with ing, we can find, or we have these, or we have to use these subordinators like once, until, till, when, whenever, while, etc. Now let's see the example. Be careful when crossing streets. Here you find that crossing street is an ing clause, and when the subordinator is used with that ing clause. Next important information is that adverbial ed clauses of time are introduced by one of the following subordinators. So, when adverbial ed clause, that is again a participle clauses, that is ed clause, you find that if you know the participle clauses, there are the ing and ed clauses. I have a video lesson for the participle clauses. If you wish, you can watch that thing as well. So, in an adverbial ed clauses, the subordinators are used like as soon as, once, till, when, whenever, etc. Now let's see the example. One scene, that painting will never be forgotten. So here one scene. So with adverbial ed clause, you have to use the subordinator like once. Next, the general rules for verb tense in an adverbial clause. This is a very important issue because unless you know which tense is used in that subordinated clause, you have faced a lot of problem. Now I am going to tell you about that thing. Adverbial clauses beginning with after, as soon as, before, until, when, and while use the verb tense as follows. So if you find these subordinated that like after, as soon as, before, until, when, and while, so the verb tense should be like this. To talk about present or past, use the same tense you would use in the main clause. So in let me explain with the example here. I normally look after the children while she is practicing. Here you find that the tense of the main clause and the subordinate clause is same. So if the subordinator like while is used, so you have to use the same tense of the main clause, that is it is in present tense, so it is also in present tense. And when she heard the result, she was overjoyed. In this example, you find that the main clause, the tense is past tense. So in the subordinate clause, you have to use past tense as well. Next rule, adverbial clause beginning with after, as soon as, before, until, when, and while use the verb tense as follows. That is, to talk about the future, use present tense. This is very important. That is, when we are talking about future in an adverbial clause introducing with these subordinator, you have to use present tense. Now let's see the example. Wait here until you are ready to go. Here you are ready to go, that it means you are not going or now, you are ready to go, that talking about future, but you have to use the present tense here to denote or to say about the future thing. I will look after the children while you are making dinner. Here you find the main clause, the tense is future tense, I will, but in the subordinate clause which is introduced by the subordinator while, the tense is present continuous. So if it is a future tense, you have to use the present tense, present continuous, present simple present, etc. Next, third rule, to talk about action that is completed before another action described in the main clause, use either simple or perfect tense. What is that? That is, to talk about action that is completed before another action described in the main clause. So now let's see the example. Here, as soon as you see or have seen, come and tell me. So here in the subordinate clause which is introduced, the adverbial clause of time, as soon as, you can use either simple tense or perfect tense, but the main clause is in simple tense. That is, as soon as you see or have seen, come and tell me. So these action actually describe completed before the action referred in the main clause. Next example, that is, however, if we are talking about an action in an adverbial clause that take place over a period of time, we generally prefer present perfect tense. So this is another important thing. In an adverbial clause, you have to use the verb tense, which is if you are talking about some action which is taken place over a period of time, we generally prefer present perfect. After I have written this book, I am having a holiday. Here, look at the thing, that is, we are talking about a period of time. When we are talking about period of time after I have written, after I have completed, in that case we are using the present perfect tense. Next, the fifth rule: if the two actions take place at the same time, use simple tense, not perfect tense. That if we are talking about two actions, one is in main clause and other is in subordinate clause, and if they are took place at the same time, always use simple tense, not perfect tense. What is this? Turn the light out as you leave. You never say as you have left, because here in this example you do not use the perfect tense, because turn light and leave, both the actions are taken place at the same time. When I saw Kim, I asked her over for dinner. Here, when I saw Kim and I asked, all these two actions have been taken place at the same time. So, you have to use simple past tense, but never say when I had seen. Now, it's the time to know about the subordinator before and until. Where do we use before and until? First, we use before if the action or event in the main clause has a little or no duration. That is, there are two actions in one is in main clause and other in is subordinate clause. If the action referred in the main clause has a little or no duration in that time, or at that time, we use before in the subordinate clause. Let's see the example. She walked out before I have a chance to explain. So she walked out, there is no duration or a very little duration. So in that case, the subordinate clause is used in the adverbial. The subordinate adverbial clause is introduced by the subordinator before. Next, we can often use either until or before when a situation described in the main clause lasts until a time indicated in the adverbial clause. So this is important thing. If there is a indication of time in the adverbial clause, you can use either until or before in the subordinate adverbial clauses of time. So here, to say how far the future event is, here it was 3 days until or before the letter arrived. So here you find that there is the 3 days. So here there is the mention for the time is indicated here. The next example, if the main clause is negative, then you can use both until or before. That is, I didn't think I would like skiing until before I tried it. So this is the example. If there are two situations, if there is the indication of time, or if the main clause is negative, in that situation you can use either until or before. But if the action referred in the main clause have a little or no duration, you have to use before instead of until. Next, there is a comparison. Why before and until, and what is the difference of their use? Compare the use of before and until when the main clause is positive. So if the main clause is positive, then what is the difference? He used to live with us until before he moved down to London. Here, until means up to the time. That means before he moved down to London. Before means at the same time before, but not necessarily right up to the time specified. If the adverbial clause also describe the result of an action in a main clause, we use until. So here these two things, until and before, both both are applicable, but there is a difference here. If we use until, we mean up to the time, but if we use before, we mean at some time before, but not necessarily right up to this time, or there is no specified time is referred to here. So if the adverbial clause also describe the result of an action, this is important thing, then we have to use until. Okay, so let's see the example. He cleaned his shoes until they shone. So signing is the result of cleaning. So in that case, we have to use until instead of before, if because this thing is the result of the action referred in the main clause. Next, hardly, no sooner, and scarcely. These are very important subordinators. Now let's see their use. When we say that one event happened immediately after another, we can use sentences with hardly, no sooner, and scarcely. So what is the important thing here? Now let's see the example. The concert had hardly begun before all the lights went out. I had no sooner lit the barbecue than it started to rain. So this is the example, and here we often use past perfect in the clause with hardly, no sooner, and scarcely. Scarcely, here you find that verb tense is past perfect while using this subordinator hardly, no sooner, and scarcely. We have to use past perfect tense and simple past in the second clause, and here went out in the second clause we find the simple past tense, that is went out or started. Begins with when or before, that is the second clause is used with before, but here then you can use when as well. After, no sooner, it began with then. So this is very important. Again I repeat, after hardly and scarcely, the second clause begins with either when or before, but if it is no sooner, then you have to use then. This is important information. Hope you like this video lesson. If you have any queries, please do comment in the comment section. I definitely reply them. So no more today. Thank you for listening, and bye bye.